Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Leading from Alignment with our good friend, coach, and mentor, John Opalewski. How are you today, John?
Hey, Jim, I'm doing well. I'm excited about today's episode.
Yes, I'm
A
here.
continuation of last week. It's this part two, engaging and incorporating the next generation of leaders. And
Yeah.
we spent some time in 214 introducing the subject. This is a third pod in a row that
Yeah.
we are talking about this subject in one way, shape, or form. And we hope that
Yeah.
communicates to you how important we believe it is.
Yes.
Jim, can you recap 214 for us a little bit?
Yeah. We just talked about the differences between the generations, that there's five generations now in the church, all the way from the builder generation to the Gen Zs and what is being born now is Gen Alpha even. But they're serving, they're living at it, and how the formative years of our life form our perspective on life, and how one generation can say work and the other generation hears something completely different. I know that my
Yes.
grandfather said work. He did not mean what I meant when I said work. He was, a
Yeah.
tough old bird and come on to my house. We'll spend the summer working. I thought, oh, we're going to eat and have fun. Now, he meant grab a two-headed sickle, go down to the swamp and clear it out, drain the swamp. And I'm, covered in critters. And he didn't mean what I meant, but he taught me how to work the way his generation knew how to work. And then it goes on to really, we hold a bunch of younger leaders and ask them, what would you say to older pastors about your generation that they probably wouldn't know about you, wouldn't understand? We're going to be sharing this information. We did it at a retreat recently and now on this podcast. And their answers were surprising in some ways and exactly what I expected in other
Mm.
ways. So the first one was that the younger generation, when we say church and leadership, we might be saying growth and movement and programs and dollars and square feet, and they're not. They're thinking family room couch. They're thinking depth of relationship, not height of numbers. They really want to
Right.
build discipling relationships with people. They're a little burned out that we've
Mm.
hired them to be ringmasters in a circus. They're a little burned out that we want them to be factory workers, to with all more is the constant goal. When they meet with a leader, the leader just wants to know about numbers, not
Right.
about soul, not about heart, not about vision. And so those that are done with youth ministry and thinking about moving on to senior pastoring, when you ask them what does your church look like, the most common answer is I don't know, but it doesn't look like the church I just quit. It
Mm.
looks like something different. And one of them, I love it. He said, I'm so tired of skinny jeans, smoke machines, and Krispy Kremes. I don't want to see any more promotions until everybody knows everybody's name. I don't value that. My generation doesn't value that. And it's a pivot, right? It's a pendulum shift. I remember, as
Yes.
you do too, coming into ministry about the same time where that transition from hymns and suits and ties and organs to, choruses and blue jeans and all that kind of stuff. We fought for that. And there was a revolution that came, and millions have been birthed into the kingdom because we weren't the church they left when they were old enough to tell their mom they weren't going to church with them anymore. But now there's
Right.
another pivot coming in this generation, and it's as sharp, if not sharper, a turn than what we fought for, because they're fighting us now, and we're pretty ingrained. We may have decreasing results, but we're still sure we're right. That's what our generation's fighting for, is the futility of repetition, because it worked in 1984. Bless God, it's going to work again.
Yeah.
And just like we fought for change, this generation's fighting for change as well. Only this time we're the problem. We're in the way rather than we know the way. So
Yeah.
there's a substantial challenge ahead of them.
So the question that you had posed to these younger leaders, I thought
Yeah.
was so good. What would you say to pastors who want to engage and enlist a younger generation? And the first answer was church growth is not as important as relational connection to this generation of leaders. And I
Yes.
thought that was such a salient point, an
Yeah.
important reminder of how Jesus did stuff.
Yeah.
Um, that it comes down to relationship and
Yeah.
discipleship and helping people figure. Jesus put the disciples in spots they weren't ready for. We talked about this last week too.
Yeah.
I think all of us who are listening probably have had one or two or more of those kinds of wonderful people in our life
Yeah.
who saw greatness in us that we didn't see
Yeah.
and gave opportunity for that, even though it was well underdeveloped. That skill
Yeah.
set was very underdeveloped,
Yeah.
gave us an
Yeah.
opportunity. And
Yeah.
so we're so grateful for that. Jim, I'd like to unpack the other two insightful
Yeah.
answers we were given to this question. Um, Take it away. What was the next one
Yeah.
that
So
young leaders were telling us?
the next one was they want spiritual parents who truly care about them, not just a boss who cares about results. Right now,
Okay.
there's a misunderstanding when we say souls or numbers or growth, what they hear is process and not people. They
Okay.
hear results, not relationship. And what they would really rather have is a mentor. We jokingly say sometimes I'll say with my our friend, mentor, and tormentor John Obolewski in the introduction. Well, I think that if a mentor doesn't occasionally torment his mentee, he's not mentoring them. He's complimenting them, or she is being kind. Actually, too kind. I think sooner or later, we have to have somebody tell us where we're wrong. And so, in this sense of they want spiritual parents, which involves compliments, mentoring, and at times tormenting them
Yeah.
to be who God made them to be. But they don't want it because of performance. They want it because of a depth of relationship. So let me just say this:
Okay.
if you're going to go out and take something to the post office, and you have a young staff member, a young volunteer, a teenager who volunteers in your sound booth, you shouldn't go to the post office alone. You should say, "Hey, I'm running to the post office. You want to go with me?" And in doing that, suddenly you're not a figurehead. You're not an authoritative position. You're a person who, when they get in your car and they see that your car is trashed or not, they'll know more about you. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you say Jesus bless them, or you use Jesus's name in some other way, they know more about you. They're more connected to you. When you say I'm getting a coffee, you want one? That you elevated them to peerhood. That they want
Mm.
someone to see them, know them, soothe them. They won't trust you until you've earned that trust, because you have a position that might have worked for our grandparents. It certainly worked for my parents. It works to some degree for me because I'm military. But those who weren't in the military, they don't care what your rank is. They care whether or not you care about them. So you have to earn that right. So some of the answers. This is another young man here who mentors a lot of young people. He's at our master's commission program, our ministry academy. He says this. He says they need fathers and mothers who are full of grace and who see God's finished work in them, especially when they don't see it in themselves. They
Yeah.
they want people that are going to love them no matter what. That they can be honest with. Man, I got this smartphone. I looked at porn. I don't know what to do. Like you need to be that close. That I'm in this relationship right now, and I don't know how to get out of it. I'm in this job right now, and the boss is abusive. I don't know what to do. Man, I really had these goals and dreams. I'm just so lazy. I can't get out of bed. You have to earn the right to speak into those situations. That's not. I'm a pastor, so I get the right. So you have to earn that trust, like any friend would in this generation. Another one, Brendan. He's probably in his mid-20s, married, has a kid, is on a worship team. He said this. He said, "We are hungry to learn, so let us listen and ask questions. Be vulnerable and transparent with us." This generation does not want a sage on the stage. It wants a guide by the side. It
Mm.
wants a father in the best sense of the word, a mother in the best sense of the word. Brett's a little bit older, but he works with the young people, says this: just like children, they will mess up. Expect it and prepare your reaction to it. A good parent doesn't immediately find another child to replace them. They take the time to teach with patience, love, and wisdom. And then parentheses, he puts, and if that doesn't work, fire them, which I thought was nice. It was nice to give me permission. Don't just be so understanding that they get away with murder. If they don't get it, that's
Mm.
okay. But even in firing them, there's reasons why. And it isn't
Mm.
doesn't mean I don't love you,
Yeah.
being picked last doesn't mean that nobody wants you. It means that no one wants you on their team. There's a difference between the two, right? So I set you up to fail. I accept responsibility for making this hire. I apologize to you, and I'm committed to you, regardless of your position in this organization. That is a far deeper. That's much closer to this generation's heart than it's binary. You succeed or you fail. You're in or you're out. It's not a switch you flip. It's a dial that has a
Yeah.
lot of nuance, but that dial is built off a relationship.
Jim, and it just strikes me the incredible amount of patience
Yeah,
this approach takes. That you there's a we raised you raised boys, I raised boys,
yeah,
and um, an incredible amount of patience required to do it well. And and so I think sometimes for me, I'll just talk to myself here a little bit, that that impatience gets in the way of this. That
Yes.
I'm 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 expecting somebody to get it right the first time. I'm expecting somebody to get it right after we've worked through it a few times. I'm expecting
Yeah.
to not have to revisit certain things again and again.
Yeah.
And then there is this sense of almost a lack of the fruit of the spirit in my own life,
Mm,
where I'm not um giving people time to
yeah.
develop and grow. Um and so yeah, I think part of the answer here is what's going on the inside of me
Yeah.
as a pastor of younger leaders, that man, if this is a point of anger and a point of frustration, if it and I get it, you
Yeah.
know, being a leader not is not easy, and there are times when your staff will do things that they shouldn't do,
Yeah.
say things they shouldn't say, uh, not meet what a reasonable expectation
Yeah.
would be of something, and you got to deal with all of that. But I wonder sometimes if I lack enough patience to do this.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to ask that question. Do I lack the patience to do this?
Yeah.
And if the answer you find is one you didn't want to hear, like I do lack the patience to do this, then find the patience or don't do this. Because I
Mm,
think one of the reasons people are rejecting ministry is not because they're not called, not anointed, not trained, is that they're not understood. You know,
mm,
I mean, things really have changed. The 20 something year old Bible college grad or ministry academy grad that wants to get in that first position in ministry, very different than when you and I became youth pastors in 1938. You know, so it's everything's changed since then. You know, so I think that you got to understand that before you can understand them. You know,
mm,
we're going to pay them lousy. We're going to make them do all the things we don't want to do. We're never going to appreciate them. We're just going to criticize them. In some ways that didn't happen to us, but as it did happen to us, it didn't bother us. You know, if you never did construction in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s like I did, and you were the new guy on the team, you were the new cop on the beat, you were the new soldier in the company, you got beat by everybody. There was I remember we did construction. I was loaned out to every crew. My dad would pay me, but he wanted me to know construction. So I mean, working with bricklayers that need concrete or cement when they need it. Mud dog, get your blankety blanket. Mud dog, where's the mud? I'm tired of waiting on you. I make money when and that was. But man, you did that to this generation.
yeah.
It would happen once. It would be considered abusive. It would never happen again. But our dads went to war. Their dads went to college. You see
Yeah.
the difference?
Yes.
They're, I'm a, the blue collar world is really having a hard time finding good help. Maybe it's because you're lousy bosses, not
Mm,
because it's a lazy generation.
yeah.
When they never get to put up the piece of trim, they only get to carry the wood and clean up the job. Well, you're not teaching anything. You're just using me. So I again, we come back to this thought. They want fathers. They want a sense of. I mean, it's our third one, but they want partnership. They will do
Yeah.
meaningful work when they feel like they're a meaningful part.
Yeah. So let's talk about that third answer,
Yeah,
Jim. You just alluded to it, but give me the full
yeah.
idea there.
This is the one that's probably the most difficult for me personally because I'm not ready
Okay.
to give up a lot of what I get to do right now, but they're helping me appreciate the importance of it. It was this. They want a sense of full share partnership and ownership. They don't want to work at your church. They want to partner with you and God with their calling, with their
Mm,
gifts. So Austin, young man in our worship ministry here, employee at the church, says giving them the freedom to try new things, letting them know that you trust them, and being available for advice and help is huge to his generation. Like being there,
yeah.
we're going to try something new. Right now, our stage setup is different. From October 1st to December 31st, they put the stage in the middle of the room. Our
Mm,
concrete stage we spent 100 grand on. You know what I mean? That big con with the it's not being used. They put a boxing ring without the ropes in the middle, and so I have to preach in the round. So I'm a 360-degree turn. Why is that? Well, because their thought was because people aren't getting to know each other. They always sit in the same seats next to the same people. And people want to know people in our generation. So we got to shake it up. Let's put them someplace they've never been before. They have to meet people they've never met before. And I'm like, well, why are we making this hard? But we're not. We're listening to a generation saying this is what we value.
Yeah,
We have a lot of young families. Another one. This is my son Josh, and I think he may be talking to somebody in
maybe
leadership on my team, perhaps.
it's possible.
He says you have to relinquish control. Parentheses, Dad. You have to relinquish control. The tighter you squeeze, the less you'll get. You have to give them the ability to lead, truly lead, not just give them the illusion of leadership. So you're in
Mhm.
charge as long as you do exactly what I want you to do. If not, I'll take charge. They don't want
That
that.
is such a powerful statement. Um,
Like,
I mean, all of the statements that these young leaders made were
yeah,
amazing. I love the insight. This one, um, just it hit me. It really
yeah,
hit me. Uh,
yeah,
Not just give them the illusion
yeah.
of leadership, and the tighter you squeeze, the less you'll get.
Sure, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I just thought that was so insightful. Um, and again, I come back to Jesus, and I think he invites us into partnership.
Oh
Everything that
yeah.
we do is a joint venture with him.
Co-mission. Yeah,
It's a joint venture between us
yeah,
and Jesus. He's not going to do all the work. He doesn't expect us to do all the work. He's going to do his part.
yeah,
He won't do our part. It's there's this partnership, and it's such an honor. I think about you said this, I think, in episode 213, several episodes ago. It's like the dad who lets his 3-year-old son help him cut the lawn, you know,
yeah, yeah,
and Jesus does most of the heavy lifting, but he invites us to share that with him. And I think I what I'm hearing is that's the heart cry of these younger leaders.
yeah,
We want that.
yeah, yeah. And I guess we did too, right? The pastor that micromanaged us and wanted everything we're going to do and see our sermon notes and correct everything before we said it and represented the parents against us rather than us against opposition to what we were doing. We wanted that too. But I think sometimes we forget. We remember basically the good things. And I mean by that I mean our behavior. But I remember when we were given a Sunday night service in Prescott, Arizona, and I saw this skit on Saturday Night Live, and we decided to replicate it by doing what was called the Bassomatic blender. And we ground up live goldfish and had a kid drink it from the audience as part of a crowd breaker. And, we had a blindfold make a peanut butter sandwich, but we put peanut butter inside of a diaper and the guy took a bite out of it. And and I in retrospect, as a senior pastor, perhaps my pastor was correct in pulling me aside and saying, don't ever, just never. I never got another Sunday night service for the youth. I was allowed to preach when he was out of town or in a coma or dead. But beyond that, I had burned that bridge. But now I recognize I was appealing to a bunch of junior high schoolers and high schoolers, but he said, come into my room and minister to everybody. And I didn't know how to do that. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful that he pulled me aside and said, you can't have people take a bite of crunchy peanut butter out of a baby diaper. And,
Yes.
retired missionaries, we lived at the same Prescott's where all the retired missionaries and pastors lived on the network campground. So
Mm.
our whole Sunday night congregation, they've been all over the world serving Jesus since before my mother was born. And we're eating live goldfish, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
and they came out of the holiness movement. And I didn't know what the holiness movement was, but it probably didn't involve diapers. So it does now,
Jim,
but we're
yeah,
wearing them. So
yeah. So final thoughts. What are,
yeah.
what's,
Yeah. Here's the
summarize.
deal. Yeah. I think I'll encapsulate it as quickly as I can, but I think this: you have wisdom, but they have knowledge. They really, like, they know the internet, they know social media, they know live stream, they know technology, they know how to reach their generation in a way you will never know again unless you listen to them. You have wisdom, they have knowledge. I think you should go to lunch often. I think you should drink coffee regularly. I think you should ask each other questions. I think mentors and mentees love those encounters when iron sharpens iron. So trade your wisdom for their knowledge. I'd say this to this generation, I learned this: a meal is 10 times more powerful than a meeting. I'm going to lunch. You want to go? That is you cannot imagine the compliment that they feel when you say, let's go to lunch.
Yeah.
I have the Hello Fresh meals. I get 2 a week. And one of my guys loves to cook. So hey, let's go home and make a HelloFresh meal tomorrow. You want? I got an extra one. I got this. I was thinking about you, and so he'll go cook it for me, and we'll hang out, and we'll talk, and it takes a full hour to cook the meal, eat it, and come back. But that means more to him than 10 meetings where I share my plans that I need you to do this and do that, and here's your to-do list. It just says you're a friend of mine. You're important to me. It actually doesn't. I guess I want to say friend because I don't want to admit this, but it means you're a son of mine. That's what it
Mm,
means. Those of us that are our age, John, we have to get rid of thinking we're everybody's sons and everybody's brothers. Those days are long over with. We're everybody's father now. They
mm,
want their father to affirm them, to listen to them, to care about them. And I'll say this along that line. The third thing is fathers and mothers get sons and daughters. Bosses will only get employees. The best of them will never appear until you love them apart from their job descriptions. You value them by giving them what's most valuable. That is you, your time, your prayer, your questions, your answers to their questions. You're deepening a relationship that is not unlike Paul and all of his young mentees, Moses and Joshua. All the biblical relationships. Jesus had disciples. Do you? Do you have
mm.
disciples, or do you just have friends? People that really want to hear from you but are afraid to ask. But if you invite them for a cup of coffee, hey, I'm going home to make some lunch. You want to get a bologna sandwich with me? That generation's never even seen bologna. They don't even know what it is. So it
Actually, that's a
irritates
good thing.
me.
Uh,
Bologna, government cheese, white bread, and Kool-Aid. Come on. That was my entire childhood. I didn't discover mustard until I was in my 20s. Like this is awesome. So, and here's the last thing, and I say this all the time. I hope I'm not known for being redundant on this, but I think it's important. Name 5 sermons that have changed your life. Nobody can. Name 5 people that have changed your life. Everybody can. Last question though. Those people that changed your life, how many of them are older or of a different generation than you? And
yeah.
the answer usually is all of them.
Yes.
And so I come back to this generation and say, it's our turn. And by and large, they don't feel
Mm,
that from us. They feel like we look at them with judgment, criticism, like they're lazy. They're not lazy, but they are facing a tremendous different set of questions that require different answers and demands on their life than we had to face. They
yes.
have a cell phone bill, they have a cable bill, they have an internet bill. Their car payment is more than my mortgage payment used to be for a used car. The interest rates are back in the 80s again. Like
Yeah.
they're doing the best they can, and they do so much better if we believe in them and not judge and criticize them, because they're not what our best memories of ourselves are. They need
Mm,
fathers, not gatekeepers. They need mothers, not those who measure their performance to decide whether or not they're worthy of time. So if we do that, we got them. And I think we solve our leadership crisis over time. I think that when we're done, our churches don't become restaurants, they become lighthouses, because we'll slowly trust them, and slowly they'll trust us, and eventually we'll get out of their way, and they'll
yeah.
inherit our life's work rather than disinherit it and have to start over again with something else. So I'm
Lord,
grateful for
may
the
it,
people that changed my life.
yeah, yeah, and may it be so. May we
Maybe
do that.
so.
Uh, so, Jim, thank you for sharing your heart these last 2 episodes and really giving us your perspective on this. I think it's been extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And I hope that if you're listening or watching today, that you feel encouraged, that you feel challenged, that you feel like you have a couple of next steps. If you're
Yeah.
wondering what the next step is, invite somebody on your staff out for coffee. That's the next
Yeah.
step, right?
Yeah.
And and take this, with all the seriousness, I guess, that we can give to it today, that because we care about every generation, right? We care about
Yeah.
all generations. We care
Yeah.
about the work of the Lord and what God is up to in our time. We care about pastors and their well-being and their health. Um, we care deeply about this subject. We wouldn't have spent three
Yeah.
weeks in a row
Yeah.
on this if we didn't feel that we're at a critical juncture.
Yes, we are.
And so we just encourage you and challenge you to take this up, to do your
Yeah.
part. If you'd like to talk with us more about this subject or anything else that's on your mind, by the way, you can reach out to us at convergecoach.com and select the contact us link. And that gives
Yeah.
you 30 minutes with one of our amazing coaches or mentors on our team.
Yeah.
And we'd love to get to know you, learn a little bit about you, to see if we can be of help to you in any way.
Yeah.
But please know this, that Jim and I do this not because we don't have anything else to do. We do this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we do this because we believe in you, and we want God's best for you as a leader in your personal life, in your professional life. We are rooting for you. We're on your team.
Yeah.
We're cheering for you. Keep going. Keep putting one foot in front of the other as you continue to lead from alignment.